There seems to be a lot of confusion around the topic of armed trespassing, and I can understand why. Plain vanilla trespassing and armed trespassing are different. Trespassing refers to the act of entering someone's property line without permission. The offense occurs as soon as you step foot on the property, whether there is a no trespassing sign or not. You do not have to be asked to leave the property to be trespassing. If you're on the property with ill intent, that's a problem, and the property owner may take defensive measures. However, if you're the next door neighbor and walk up on your neighbor's property to ask to borrow his lawnmower, you're technically trespassing because you may not have gotten permission at that moment in time. But unless your neighbor hates your guts, you'll probably be just fine, even if there is a sign there. Just make sure to return the lawnmower.
Do I have to?
If you get value out of this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. It would be much appreciated. Let's get to it. In Florida, armed trespassing refers to you being lawfully armed and entering a business that clearly displays a no weapons allowed sign at the entrance. That's still not yet considered an offense. However, one of the business owners or employees notices the weapon and asks you to leave. If you leave peacefully, you're just fine. In Florida, no guns allowed signs are not legally enforceable in and of themselves. Entering a business with such a sign on the door is not yet considered armed trespassing, even though they're attempting to make you feel unwelcome. However, if you refuse to leave, you are committing armed trespassing. In Florida, that's a third-degree felony. If you're charged, you lose your gun rights, especially if Judge Judy is residing on your case. Remember, you have a choice as to whether you want to frequent places that have such a sign on the door or take your business elsewhere. You decide for yourself if making a fuss is worth it if you are asked to leave because your firearm is discovered. And you must live with the consequences of your decision. Personally, I believe that in Florida, such signs create the appearance that a business may not welcome firearms carried by law-abiding citizens, but only to please their anti-gun patrons. They know that criminals couldn't care less about the signs, and level-headed law-abiding gun owners will not pose a problem. In fact, they provide an extra level of free security.
Did you say free?
If I want a certain product and my most convenient route to it is a business that has such a sign on the door, I'll still go there. I don't take it personally, politicize it, or frankly, give it a second thought. I make sure it's not a prohibited place, I'm discreet and respectful. I conclude my business and quickly leave. If I was asked to leave, which has not yet happened, I would leave. No fuss and no speeches about my constitutional rights. The last thing I want is to bring attention to myself and get law enforcement involved. I'm most certainly not going to risk losing my 2A rights for pride and ego. More importantly, I'm a proud member of the 2A community, and my behavior is a reflection of it, and I want to represent it well.
You're the man.
So the next time you approach a business with a sign on the door, don't assume they're anti-gun and attempting to infringe on your 2A rights. If you open carry, you're likely going to have to go somewhere else. If you carry concealed, be discreet, act normal, do your business, and go on your way. If you are asked to leave, please don't make a fuss and bring attention to yourself because you just make it harder for the rest of us and make the case for such signs to be posted. Newsflash! Nobody gives a hoot about your 2A rights. It doesn't give you the right to abuse and misrepresent them. If you record your confrontation with a business owner and post it on social media thinking you're so smart and tough, you're not. You're a top-notch fool, and those that applaud you and give you a like are fools and idiots themselves. You can hem and haw till the cows come home about how the government has no right to infringe on your right to keep and bear arms. Well, they can and they will, whether you like it or not. And businesses can run their business any way they wish, and you have the right to choose if you want to do business with them or not. But if you choose to walk into such a business fully aware of that sign on the door, then take responsibility for what comes along with that choice and behave accordingly or suffer the consequences. And speaking of consequences, what can a business owner or authorized employee legally do to remove an armed trespasser from the premises? Before I get into that, let me be clear. I'm not an attorney, and my point of view is not to be taken as legal advice.
Well,
Let's continue. Well, Florida Statute 776.031 on use of force in defense of property spells it out. Subsection 1 states, a person is justified in using or threatening to use force except deadly force against another when and to the extent that the person reasonably believes that such conduct is necessary to prevent or terminate the other's trespass on or other tortious or criminal interference with either real property other than a dwelling or personal property, lawfully in his or her possession, or in the possession of another who is a member of his or her immediate family or household, or of a person whose property he or she has a legal duty to protect. A person who uses or threatens to use force in accordance with this subsection does not have a duty to retreat before using or threatening to use such force.
What the hell did you just say?
So, if you're carrying a firearm, are asked to leave, and you refuse, the authorized person may use non-deadly force to remove you from the premises as long as you keep your firearm holstered or otherwise securely encased and out of the equation. Now, subsection 2 of the statute states that a person is justified in using or threatening to use deadly force only if he or she reasonably believes that such conduct is necessary to prevent the imminent commission of a forcible felony. A person who uses or threatens to use deadly force in accordance with the subsection does not have a duty to retreat and has the right to stand his or her ground if the person using or threatening to use deadly force is not engaged in criminal activity and is in a place where he or she has a right to be. So as long as you keep your firearm holstered or otherwise securely encased, the person removing you doesn't really have a reasonable belief of imminent death or great bodily harm and may not use deadly force. However, if you reach for your gun, even if to just straighten out your holster, display your firearm, even if it's still holstered, as if to send a subliminal message that you're not to be messed with, that changes the equation and may be considered a threat to use deadly force. That may give the business owner or employee the reasonable belief that you intend to use deadly force, and they may use it against you. If it escalates to that point, with cameras everywhere and potential witnesses all around, you could potentially land in a heap of legal trouble. And for those of you who are bystanders watching the scene, unless you or another are in harm's way, please don't get involved. If you intervene and use force against the armed trespasser, even with the intention to help the business owner or employee remove the offender, you may be viewed as the aggressor in that chapter of the altercation because you are not under threat personally. That could land you in legal trouble too. If the trespasser is using excessive force, deadly or otherwise, and you have a reasonable belief that the business owner or employee are about to sustain grave bodily harm and or death, you may intervene to stop him or her from causing such harm and death. Just remember, the statute is specific in its language, and you and your attorney must be able to articulate your actions to a jury and prosecutor, if it goes that far, as to why you had a reasonable belief to act as you did. Remember the quote, "No good deed goes unpunished"? That's one of those instances you ought to carefully consider. If you enjoyed this video, please smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and watch the next video right here. Train hard, often, and safely, and I'll see you at the range.